but we're not taught how to not get into debt or how to get out of debt. If we're in debt, how to manage debt smartly, how to leverage credit in a way that doesn't get us into debt. We're not taught how to shop smart and save money, how to do price matching to again save money. We're just not taught the fundamentals of like calling around to get the best insurance quote or the best rate for your mortgage or how even like mortgage rates and credit card interest are calculated.
Welcome to Go Get Great, the podcast for aspiring entrepreneurs and ambitious small business owners. I'm your host, Brittany, owner of Brittany Miller Socials and mother of 3. Go Get Great is all about helping you make life and business work together. You'll learn about the fumbles that helped get me and my guests to where we are today so you don't have to make them. So come join the journey with Go Get Great.
I loved school. Absolutely loved it. I was one of those crazy kids that woke up every day super excited to go and learn something new. Like I lived for school. I cried when my parents told me we were going on vacation because I couldn't go to school. Yeah, I was that kind of child. But you know what? As I grow up into a more adult, for lack of a better term, I'm really realizing that there's a lot missing from school curriculums that are hurting my adult life and are also hurting my business. So I thought today would be a really great time to talk about the 4 management systems I wish I was taught in school. Also, keep in mind that some of what I talk about, I went to business school. Literally, I thought I was going to school to learn how to run my own business. And that is 100% not what I learned. I did, however, learn about how much it costs to do that. That's a separate problem. But today we're going to talk about, like I said, the 4 management systems that I wish I had learned that would serve me much better as a mom, as an individual, and as a business owner. So let's dive in. So the first one, this is being really prevalent in our house lately. I don't know whether it's sickness or season changes or what the heck is going on, but emotions are like off the charts, people. Like I pick my children up and they're in tears pretty much until bedtime. It's crazy. It's very stressful. Very, very stressful. And one thing that I've really realized is that emotional regulation, not something taught in school, which is challenging whether you're a business owner or not, because you need to regulate your emotions all the time. And we really don't know how to do that. Like I've learned some tips and strategies because I've went to therapy and I've spent some time trying to figure out how to get my children not to be upset over every little thing. Lately, one of Rhea's sources of frustration anyway have been her underwear. And I mean, guys, let me tell you, the amount of things I have tried to get her to stop screaming about her underwear is absolutely ridiculous. But there's just some sort of emotional or sensory issue that she is dealing with. And I do not have the tools to help her with that, which means that I don't have the tools to help myself with that if that were something that I were facing myself. So it's really become apparent to me that emotional regulation is something that is needed for parents to help emotionally regulate their children, but also just as individuals and also business owners. So I really struggle with emotional regulation in my business, not when things are going well, of course, when things are not going well. And I really tend to default into like a self-criticizing spiral of, oh my goodness, I didn't make sales this month because I'm awful. I have no value to provide for people. People don't want to give me money because I'm a fraud. I have been called a fraud by one of Grayson's friends who doesn't understand what digital marketing is. And that was a whole thing that took me a while to get over. And I just needed to not take it seriously. But, that was a level of emotional regulation that I just didn't have at the time. And I tend to like hit this downward spiral all the time. And it's really hard to like pull myself back out of it. And when I get into places like that, it's really hard for me to be motivated to do things in my business because my emotions are running rampant and I don't really know how to rein them in. So emotional regulation is something that is vital to just like everyday life. In addition to those negative downward spirals, I get emails from clients that are like, we need to talk. And I'm like in a panic mode that I have done something wrong and I'm about to get fired. That's because, again, I have emotional regulation and, repressed things. I have triggers that need to be dealt with still. But we're not taught how to do that. Instead, we have to pay hundreds of dollars to go to a therapist, which causes financial stress and triggers other emotions. Well, it's great. It's just a circle, guys, just a circle. But emotional regulation techniques should be taught in school, in my own opinion. And I know the school curriculum would argue that it's a parent's job to teach our children emotional regulation, but the problem is parents are not trained for emotional regulation. So, how are we supposed to teach something that we do not understand? I have yet to fathom this and figure that out. It's very frustrating. Um, so I was actually talking to a guest on my podcast recently. If you haven't listened to the episode, go check it out with Ashley Livingstone. So we were talking about helping our children regulate emotions, and breathwork is a great way to do that, and just emulating that. So there are things that I have learned along the way, like I said, from going to therapy that help me with emotional regulation, but I still don't really feel like I'm at a point where I've mastered it. And I don't think emotions are ever something you master, but I feel like there's definitely a lot of room for growth for me to get to a point where I'm not constantly coming up with like an emotional roadblock that I need to overcome that is hindering my progress as a business owner or as a parent. Some of the things that help me, breath work is one of them. Exercise is another big one. Getting outside, being in the sun, staying grounded, that helps too. Reading and doing activities that calm me. That is not watching TV. Watching TV never helps my emotions. Being connected with individuals. So I know emotional regulation techniques vary from person to person. Um, and we're working on it and we're trying to figure out how we can teach our kids emotional regulation techniques as well. But that is definitely something that I wish I knew more of when I was younger so that I could be more regulated as a mom and as a business owner. And then maybe my children wouldn't be having frustrations all the time, every night, which would make parenting also a lot easier. So another thing that I wish a management system that I wish I learned in school was financial management. So on a rudimentary level, I'm not even sure this is covered in school, but like personal budgeting, like as a general awareness, people understand that they need to make more money than they spend. But even that can be challenging. There isn't a lot that's taught into like figuring out where all your revenue comes from. Okay, typically that one's pretty easy. Most people only have like a paycheck they get from an employer. Um, but we're not taught about things like investing and diversifying our revenue streams as a business owner. But again, coming back to a personal level, like how to create a budget. Budgets is seen as like a bad word. And I have a love-hate relationship with budgets, but we're not taught how to not get into debt or how to get out of debt. If we're in debt, how to manage debt smartly, how to leverage credit in a way that doesn't get us into debt. We're not taught how to shop smart and save money, how to do price matching to again save money. We're just not taught the fundamentals of like calling around to get the best insurance quote or the best rate for your mortgage or how even like mortgage rates and credit card interest are calculated. There's just so much lack of knowledge out there about managing personal finances that it's no wonder that the majority of the population has like I think the last time I looked the statistic up was on average $30,000 of consumer debt. You guys, that's like half your income for the year. That's insane. And you're paying interest through the roof. It's crazy. Now, not to say that we don't have consumer debt, because oh man, we do. But at least I have a general awareness of how to get out of it. And I know that not every other person does. But looking at financial management from a business perspective, there's like hardly any information out there at all that tells you how to manage the finances of your business. It's like, okay, yeah, make sure your business makes more money than you spend. But how do you track what is making you the most money and where to put your time and effort into the business or where your expense income is going and how to have smarter, fewer expenses that still support your business? How and where to know what is good to invest in, whether it's systems or whether it's employees and support or whether it's something else entirely. No one talks about where to put your investment income, how to even figure out how much money you have available to invest in different services, what your business can support on a monthly basis if you're hiring an employee like on a wage base or salary, or if you're putting someone on a retainer to support you. We don't talk about any of those things. We don't talk about, like, I talk about a little bit, the profit first method, which I was fabulous at following year 1 and 1.5. And we have gone a little bit downhill in year 2 and 3 because they don't tell you how to budget for a maternity leave when you don't qualify for maternity leave pay, or how to even just like basic things. A lot of business owners don't understand how to diversify their revenue streams so that if they need to take a maternity leave, they can, and they're not just going to have expenses through the roof and no income. People don't talk about that. There's no talk about funnels because funnels are a way of diversifying your revenue. There's just so much information that people don't have when they start running a business. And it really can hurt like big time. And even as someone who I personally think myself, speaking for myself here, has a pretty solid understanding of how to manage funds for my business. Looking at my financials, my accountant would probably disagree because it can be really, really challenging when you have great months. Businesses overinvest because they think that that's the new normal. This is my problem. And then when you have bad months, you think that the solution to overcoming those bad revenue months is to invest more money to solve the problems that you have. And that's not always the case. In fact, that usually makes the problem worse, at least for me. It gives me more anxiety when I have more expenses. And it's really difficult to balance the emotional side of financials with the practical side of understanding how to take this information and use it. So, like I said earlier, just being able to identify, okay, I have 6 different revenue streams in my business. What percent of my revenue do they actually generate? And of that, how much time does it cost me to facilitate each of these things? Is it costing me more time and energy to deliver than I'm making from this service? Do I need to stop? Should I drop this product? Is this product actually costing me money? There's not a lot of information out there about how to know what information you need to look at, how to find the information, how to synthesize it down into results that actually matter, that you can make practical, informed decisions with, and then how to execute on that information. And that's oftentimes why people have to hire coaches, which is great, but not all coaches are also versed in these things either. So that's something else that you have to pay attention to. There's just like so much in the realm of managing your business financially that people don't know how to do. So, because I like to be informational and helpful in these episodes, my tips for emotional regulation, probably should have done this before. Really focus on yourself. Go see a therapist. Those things help a lot. Start just having an awareness over what things seem to be triggering a large emotional response with you, and see if you can work backwards into figuring out what you can do to prevent those triggers from happening in the future. So therapists help with this a little bit more than I probably will. Tips for financial management. Really spend some time understanding where your revenue comes from, where your expenses are. Like I said, how much time or money or resources go into actually delivering each of those products or services to figure out whether any of them are actually generating profit for you. And if this is not something that you're really strong with, hire an accountant or a financial manager of some sort. If you're struggling with your personal finances, a financial planner can really help. They'll take a look at your revenue and your expenses, all those wonderful things, and help you put a plan together for saving, whether that's saving for a vacation or to buy a new home, or saving to start a business or for retirement, etc. I have some fantastic financial planner recommendations. I'm happy to connect you if you're looking for support in that area. But again, coming back to business, really knowing your numbers, or at least being in a place where the numbers are available for you for someone else to look at, is huge. So having detailed records, I use QuickBooks personally. I find that that's really helpful, and most accountants know how to work with it. And getting your system set up so that all the information gets thrown into QuickBooks for you. So even if you don't understand how to go in and pull the report to understand your profit and loss statements, someone else can go and get those numbers, because no one can help you in your business if they don't have numbers to look at. So at least get your business to a place where the numbers exist, when you're ready or when you have the budget to have someone come in and help you with this. And I guarantee you, the sooner you do this, the better your business will be, because oftentimes our blind spots are the things that we just don't know. And even when I ran this exercise at the end of the year, I talk about it a little bit in one of my other episodes, my end of year debrief one. There were products and services that I do like routinely that are actually not making me really any money at all. So then at least now I have the awareness of, okay, I either need to decrease the deliverables in it so that my profit margins are like profitable, or I need to increase the cost of the service so that it becomes something that isn't literally costing me money to deliver. So all of those things to say, numbers are the lifeblood of your business, whether you like them or not. And I am definitely in the or not category. I have an accountant, one of the best investments I ever made. Okay, so thirdly, um, and this kind of ties into my fourth one too, but time management. This is not something we're taught in school, which frustrates me because then you get to university and they expect you to understand how to manage your time, to be like, okay, well, here's your class schedule, build your own schedule, but also like you're probably working. So like figure out your work schedule, but then also you need to study. And then where's your social life going? And just like, you know, figure it out. Just do it. Just go out and do it. You're like, what the hell? I've never had this much responsibility before. How am I supposed to know how to make this all work together, or even how much time I should be allotting to each activity? Like, is homework an hour a day? Is it 7 hours in total? Like, what the heck? How am I how do you even like start to put something like that together? And I find that a very similar situation happens when you start running a business. You just do the tasks because you know that it has to get done. But when you actually spend some time in the time management mind frame where you're analyzing, okay, what all tasks am I doing? How long on average do I spend on each of these tasks? Is that good? Is that bad? Am I mentally budgeting more or less time? Because that's an issue that I have, because I am late for everything because I mentally assume each task takes me less time than it does. So then I'm late by the time I get all the tasks done. So that's a separate Brittany problem. But understanding the tasks that you have, how much time they take you, um, and then figuring out, does it make sense? If spending 3 hours creating Instagram content is how much time I need, how much revenue is that generating? If it's not generating you any money spending 3 hours creating Instagram content, is there a better activity that you could be doing in that time? Could you go out and network for 3 hours? Would that generate more clients? Do you need to be writing blog posts? Should you be spending time optimizing your website for SEO? And not every task is going to immediately generate revenue in your business, but if you have consistently spent 3 hours creating Instagram content every day for the last year and a half and you are still not making sales from Instagram, something is wrong, my friend. And that is not a good use of your time. So even just having a time audit is not something that I was ever taught how to do, or that it was a thing. Like, I don't know whether people just think it's intuitive. But then even within that, people aren't telling you how to use your time more effectively. So techniques like the Pomodoro technique, I quite enjoy that one when I have a big project to work on. So that's the concept of doing 20 minutes, taking a 5 minute break, doing 20 minutes, taking a 5 minute break, doing 20 minutes, and then taking a 15-minute break. And then you just keep repeating that cycle. So when you actually like step back and walk away from a project, it gives your brain like focus and clarity when you come back, and it helps make you more effective. So that's something that I learned like a year and a half ago. I had no idea. I wish I had that technique when I was studying in university. That's swell. Time blocking was also a new concept to me when I started running my business. Everyone's like, oh yeah, just block your time on your calendar. If it takes you 3 hours to create your Instagram content, an hour for your podcast, and an hour for your email, then make sure you're putting 4 hours a week on your calendar. And you're like, cool, okay, I can do that. And then it never seemed to work. Like, I was always running out of time to do things still. And that was because I was a mom, and my time blocking always never worked because my kids were always up from nap time. And then I didn't have time later because I had time blocked my whole week with no extra space for the space that I lost because my kids just decided they were on a sleep strike that week. So that's, a whole other thing. But there's time management techniques out there that no one's sharing with people, especially students. I think students need this more than anything else. But also you have to know that as a mom, time management is just not a concept. It really isn't. Unless you have like a full-time daycare or a nanny, you can't manage your time. It's just not possible because kids are like notoriously unpredictable. And if you think you've got it figured out, I guarantee you wait 7 days and it'll be out the window again because that's just the reality of being a parent and running a business as a mom. So time management was not really something that I was taught. And then I tried to teach myself it, and then it actually hurt my business. It was a very weird, complex dynamic that I'm still wrapping my head around sometimes. But I still wish it was something that I was taught because it would have been really helpful for me in university. It would have been helpful for me before I had children, or even when I was in like the new stages of parenting. Although at the time I probably would have disagreed with you. But the more children you have, the easier it becomes to be with less children at a time. So, like if Grayson takes 2 kids out of the house, it suddenly feels like I have no children. Whereas when I only had 2 children, it felt like there were no hours in the day. It's a paradox. It just I think things get easier the more you have. So then the less you have later, the easier it feels. That's the reality of it. But anyway, so time management is something that I really wish that I knew more about. So my tips for this, go out and do some research on some different time management strategies. So the Pomodoro is my favorite. I definitely use that one the most. Time blocking is hit and miss, but I know there are other ones out there. Like there's like Pomodoro clocks you can get, and there's probably other time management strategies too that like do the activities in different lengths of time, kind of like Pomodoro, but like not. There's also like the time management strategy of like eat the frog first, do your hardest thing first thing in the morning to get it out of the way, and then suddenly everything else feels easier. Wish I knew that one earlier. I procrastinate on the things that I don't want to do. Or even just like this isn't really a time management thing. This is more of like a psychological thing. But if you do one task, even if it's really tiny, it like triggers something in your brain that makes you want to do more things. So eat the frog, okay, works well for some people. And other days I need to do it in reverse and I just need to tackle one small thing. I need to like empty the dishwasher or put away a load of laundry or just like respond to 3 emails to clear my inbox. Then I'm like, okay, cool. I can conquer the world now. And then I eat the frog. Sometimes I just have to like get the motivation wheel spinning. And that happens with like the little small things. So play around with what time management strategies work the best for you. But do some research, find some, and then try them until you find the ones that work really, really well. So that's 3, time management. So I spend 90% of my time, time, my focus managing my energy. And this sounds super counterintuitive, but I pay no attention to time whatsoever. So I focus on helping me be the best version of me because when I am at my peak, it can take me an hour to do something. And on days where I'm not at my peak, it could take me 4. So working more hours in my business was always what I thought you needed to do to be more successful. Oh, we have to put in a 20-hour work week or 40-hour work week. Or if I'm working 20 hours and I want to double my revenue, then I have to work twice as much to double my income. So I work more hours and I literally like hustle myself into a state of pure exhaustion. And then I'm not creative and I'm not efficient and life sucks. It just seems super shitty when I'm in that like mental space. But then when I get back, and you might have heard me say before, I make more money when I work less. And it's true. But when I'm working less, it's because I'm managing my energy better and I'm more efficient so I can get more done in less time. So part of my energy management is twofold. So yes, I manage my energy. So some of the things that I do to make that more possible, I make sure that I'm getting a really good night's sleep or as much as you can with children who wake you up at random intervals at any given point in time. I try and make sure that I'm getting enough sleep. I try and turn my screens off before bed in the evening. That helps me set myself up for the next day. I try and get up before my children in the morning because I need a few minutes of peace and quiet before the inevitable mayhem ensues. That's a big one. And then in the morning, there are a couple things that I try and do. So depending on the phase of life that I'm in, I either try and do a workout, which I haven't been doing lately because I've been doing pelvic floor exercises, which I guess is just a different kind of workout. I'll try and read or do some journaling. I try and make sure that I'm eating a really good breakfast in the morning to make sure that I have energy to fuel myself throughout the day. Meditation and or breath work can be really beneficial for me as well to help ground and center myself. And then I always make sure that I'm spending time focusing on like me, but like me and business. So like growing my business. So part of my energy management is making sure that Mondays I don't do client meetings. So that is a day dedicated for me to set myself up for success for the rest of the week so that I'm not stressed and scrambling to do things for my clients. And then all of a sudden it feels like I haven't done anything for myself in my business. And then I'm not keeping up with like my consistent posting schedule for my social media or my podcast, or my emails just magically didn't go out. Because I find the more time you have, the more the things you have to do fill that time. So if you do all the things you have to do first, then inevitably I find out that I'm more productive and I get more done those weeks. So Mondays really are like my podcast recording scheduling days. I also do a lot of my Pinterest prep. I'll work on optimizing my blog posts, doing updates to my website. Like, it really varies depending on what I'm working on in my business. But I keep Mondays as my day to focus on my business. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, my energy flows more naturally to my clients and I have better ideas and insights for them because I've already like mentally checked the box and I'm no longer stressed about my own stuff in my business. And then Fridays are like my flex days. Some days I work, some days I don't. I never do client meetings on Fridays either. And I try not to do work on Friday. Um, not to do client work on Friday. And then sometimes I use Friday as like a day to grow my business. Sometimes I'm relaxing. Sometimes I'm out doing errands and appointments. But it's like my day to like reset for the weekend. And then even on the weekend, I do things to manage my energy. So even on the weekend, I still try and get up before my kids. I still do my workouts. I make sure that I'm eating healthy, that I'm drinking water, that I'm looking after my body. So osteo, physio, chiropractor, massage. Like, I look after myself because it is myself that runs my business. And if I'm not at my peak because I'm in pain, then I'm not thinking clearly. Um, so all of those things feed into that. And magically through that entire process, I realized that I can accomplish a heck of a lot more than working a 40-hour work week. So I don't need to have full-time hours, which is great because let me tell you, I do not have full-time hours in my business. And it helps me do more in less time because I am the best version of myself when I do those things. And part of that too, in like the health realm is, and I haven't done this lately because we've been sick and I'm really tired because pregnancy fatigue is a time, y'all. Um, Part of that is like meal prep and stuff on Sundays so that throughout the week, when I have limited hours to work, I'm not like going, oh my God, I'm so hungry, but I don't have anything to eat and I don't want to make anything because I'm lazy when it comes to lunches. So then I just don't eat. And then my energy levels are lower because I haven't fueled my body properly. And then it gets back into the cycle of not managing my energy. So we do a lot of like meal planning and meal prep on Sunday so that we can optimize and be at our peak throughout the entire week. So that's like one element of it. But the other thing that I started learning a little bit about, well, not really recently, but since starting my business, is running my business according to my cycle. And you guys, this has been a challenge because at least 50% of the time that I've had my business, I've been pregnant and there's no cycle to follow. So I try and follow the lunar cycle, but I find that pregnancy impacts that quite a bit and it can be challenging. But basically, there are different activities that you can do throughout the month that better align with your strengths at that point in time that makes that activity easier. That is a really roundabout way of saying that I've organized my business in a way so that I'm networking when I feel like networking and I'm not when I don't. So go back and listen to episode 3 with Emma Kate York, and maybe I'll do a whole episode on this at some other point in the future. But talking about understanding the 4 different phases of your cycle, and I suck at remembering the names of them. I just call them spring, summer, winter, and fall. But there are technical names for this. But basically, when I'm in my spring and summer, that's when I want to do a lot of networking. It's when I want to start new projects in my business. When I'm in my fall phase, that's when I want to focus just on getting things off my to-do list. So my spring and summer phase, I do a lot of brainstorming and thinking and starting. And then I do a lot of finishing in my fall phase. And that's when I actually get things off my to-do list and I wrap up projects. And then in the winter, I like to do a lot of thinking and brainstorming, not starting, just thinking and brainstorming, analyzing, understanding, reevaluating, resting. And I've tried to organize it. And I mean, I have client work that I have to do throughout the entire month, but I've tried to organize my own business activities during those phases because if I try and launch something in the winter, I have zero desire to be on camera, you guys. So I need to record all of my podcast episodes when I'm in my spring or my summer phase. I need to make sure that I'm prepping my social media content when I'm in my spring or my summer phase because I'm not going to set up a tripod to record a reel in my winter, sometimes even in my fall phase. I'm just, the energy is just not there. So my cycle ties to my energy levels too. And learning to identify and understand those things has been like life changing in my life and my business. I no longer make plans with my friends when I'm in my fall and winter phase because I will inevitably cancel those plans because when the day comes around, I'm like, oh, why did I do this? And then 2 weeks later, I'll be like, oh yeah, like I should totally make plans with my friends, and then I'll make the plans, and then they'll be in the win, and then it's just a cycle of creating the plans and canceling the plans. So now I've got it to the point where I set the plans, and then I actually have the plans. You guys, this is life changing because I'm very much a homebody. So getting me out of the house to go hang out with people was like pulling teeth before, and I never understood why. And it was just because I made the plans when I was in the time where I should have been having the plans, and I was always doing it in reverse. So now we fixed that, and it makes it so much easier. And I also find that, when I'm in my spring and summer phase, parenting is easier. Not, I mean, easier, but like those are the times where I'm more acceptable to mess and creating like sensory activities and stuff for my kids to do. When they're like, let's paint, and I'm in my winter, I'm like, how dare you suggest that we make the house dirty and I have more mess to clean up when I want to go to bed? And I mean that in the nicest way possible to my children. But just like having this awareness of why certain things trigger me at different times and why things work better for me at different times has just been better for me. So those are the 4 systems that I really wish they taught me in school because it would have made university easier, would have made young adulting and parenting easier, having a 9 to 5 job easier. By the way, having a 9 to 5 job does not follow cycles at all, which is why I love being self-employed. But again, go back and listen to the episode that I did with Emma Kate. I'll link it in the show notes for you because that explains a little bit more about the cycle management, which ties into energy. But those are the 4. So emotional, financial, time, and energy/cycle. I really wish that I had learned this when I was younger. I'm so thankful that I have this knowledge now and I can implement it for myself and then also start to lead by example for my kids and bring an awareness to it for them as well to make their lives easier in the future. But for anyone listening, I really hope that you had some aha moments and you're able to put some of this into practice to make parenting, adulting, running a business a little bit easier on yourself. Because if you're female and you have a cycle, then it is just ridiculous how much of an impact it makes to like do these things. And if you're listening and you're like, I relate to this, please send me a message and let me know because it's nice to know when I'm saying things that resonate for people. And well, I mean, when I'm helping, but also if you have tips for emotional management, time management, financial management, or energy or cycle management, then send me a message and maybe we'll do a follow-up episode and dive deeper into those. So thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Go Get Great podcast. I will see you again next week.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Go Get Great. I hope you found some useful tips and tricks that can help you make life and business work together. If what I said resonates with you, please share it on social media and don't forget to tag at Brittany Miller Socials so that I can celebrate you for taking those first steps towards achieving greatness. Remember, success doesn't happen overnight. It takes dedication, hard work, and a lot of spirit. So don't be afraid to dream big and go after what you want. Keep striving for greatness. You get closer with every step forward, no matter how small they may seem. Until next time, go get great.